Hey YouTube, Matthew with Tactical Comms. It's been a long time since I've created a video, and I've had lots of people ask, hey, when are you going to do your next video? So I thought, you know what, it's a new year, it's time to get back into the swing of things and make a few videos. We've got a lot of content planned for the year, and I wanted to share with you why I created the Tactical Comms channel to start with. Now, back in 2020, we all went through a pandemic. Now, regardless of how you feel about the pandemic or the effects of it or what we know now, what we don't know now, 2020 was a strange year for all of us, and a lot of uncertainties and a lot of unknowns. I started the Tactical Comms channel as a way for me to just kind of escape all of the stressors and the unknowns of the pandemic. And communications is something, especially emergency communications, is something I'm pretty passionate about. And so I wanted to start teaching some other people what I have learned about communications and how you can be more resilient. This past October, I had the opportunity to go teach a basic communications course in Edgefield, South Carolina. Had a great time, great students, great place, great location, great host. Everything about it was just really, really fantastic. One of the students gave me some really good feedback, and she told me, she said, Matthew, she said, this was a great class. I really enjoyed it, but I still don't know how to talk on a radio. And I thought, what do you mean you don't know how to talk on the radio? And so there was a handful of us that were just really informal discussing. And I took for granted growing up in a radio family. I grew up in the ham radio CB days before cell phones, when all we had to communicate with each other was either ham radio or CB radios. In my family, it was largely ham radio. So I was accustomed to using the radios, but a lot of people today are not. And she said it would be really, really great if you would teach a class or do a video on how to talk on the radio. So I thought, well, great idea. So today we're going to talk about how to talk on the radio. So while we were talking after the class, it occurred to us, those of us who were licensed ham radio operators, we realized that nothing in the getting prepared to take your test for your ham radio license taught you how to talk on the radio. Now, years ago, the ham radio community was infamous for Elmers, E-L-M-E-R-S, Elmers, that were responsible for teaching the next guy, the next girl, how to do ham radio. Unfortunately, a lot of those have gone by the wayside, and we tend to argue about different technologies. So I thought, you know what? Here's a great idea. This is just a cheap FRS radio. FRS stands for Family Radio Service. It's unlicensed communication, and by the FCC rules, you'll notice that this radio has an antenna that you can't remove, which this is the antenna. Most of them have a volume knob. This is the volume knob. Now, different manufacturers, different models have different things. And then lastly, we have this big button on the side. Most FRS radios are going to have this button. It's called the push to talk, or PTT button. The push to talk button is designed to, you press it, talk, say your piece, let go so you can hear. This is called half duplex communication, meaning that while you're talking, you can't hear anything else. It's not like your cell phone, it's not like your landline telephone. It is one-way communication until you let go of that push to talk button. So when you finally figure all this out, you decide, okay, I've got my FRS radio, I'm going to start using the radio, I'm going to start talking on the radio. What are some best practices? Okay, the best practice before we get into that is when you push this button to talk, you're going to call somebody. You're going to press the button, and what I do is I inhale. So I press the button, then breathe in. Hey you, this is me. Now the radio is off right now while I'm pushing the button, so just to maintain safety. I push the button. Hey you, this is me. You don't have to scream into the radio, you don't have to, but you don't want the radio right here, and you don't want the radio way out here. You'll see some people that'll mount it on their kit or their gear, and they try talking on it, but what they end up doing is covering up the microphone, and you can't hear it anyway. So best practice, FRS radio, push to talk, inhale, hey you, this is me, let it go, and listen. See if you can hear them. If they don't answer you after 5 or 10 seconds, hey you, this is me. Same thing. Establish communications, speak your mind, whatever. So here's how you can practice with it. If you've got kids, if you've got a roommate, you've got a spouse, you've got grandkids, you've got a neighbor, go buy a couple of the cheapest FRS radios you can find. Now I'll put a link in the description below where you can go to my Amazon affiliate page, and you can they're just cheap radios that you can use to practice with. 30 bucks, I mean, whatever it's going to take is going to be a good investment for you just to learn how to talk on the radio. Now, I will warn you that there's no privacy and no security in FRS radios. So be careful what you're saying and what you're talking about. Don't be at home and saying, yeah, I'm by myself and I don't know when my roommate or my husband or my wife are going to be back. Don't give up stuff like that over the radio. Be smart about your radio communications. But buy your radios, charge them up, follow the manufacturer's instructions, and then take the two radios, make sure they're on the same channel. Now the instructions will tell you how to change channels. Go away from channel 1, go away from something else, go to a mid-channel, something like that in the FRS range. Get into a channel, make sure the two can talk to each other. Now if you've got them close together and you press the push to talk button on one, it's going to squeal in the other one. That's normal. That's because the microphone on your transmitting radio can hear the receiver or the speaker on the receiving radio. And so it's causing feedback or a loop. So the way you get away from that is give that radio to somebody else, let them go across the house, go across the yard, into the next door neighbor, whatever the case may be. Press the radio, hey you, this is me. Now, if you're on the receiving end and somebody's calling you, they're saying, hey you, this is me, you're going to say, hey you, I can hear you, this is me. And there's 1,000 different ways you could say it. Billy Bob, this is Matthew. Jane, this is Matthew. And when Billy Bob or Jane calls me, I'm going to say, hey Billy Bob, this is Matthew, go ahead. And it doesn't matter if you use tactical call signs, if you use code names, whatever the case may be, it's always, hey you, this is me. Now, there's a lot more in the tactical nature that we'll get into at a later date. But for now, that is the basics of the radio. So remember, volume knob or power knob, sometimes it's a power button. Antenna, push to talk. Push the button, hey you, this is me, let it go. And you should expect an answer. Now when you get ready to reply, press the button again, inhale. Hey, I just wanted to test out my radio and make sure that it's working okay. Can you hear me okay? And they should. Who cares what you talk about? That's the magic of radio. Other than safety and security concerns, share a recipe, share a weather report. Maybe you read a news article, or you want to talk about somebody's, whatever it is. Make sure that you get used and comfortable talking on the radio. And in future videos, we'll talk about how to shorten those conversations to make it tactful. Now you also want to use, if you're only talking to your next door neighbor, an option that most radios have are power settings. High power, mid power, low power, depending on what the radio is. If you're only talking next door to each other and you live in a suburban neighborhood, I would encourage you to use low power. Now, a lot of people, especially guys, we think we need maximum power, we need maximum smoke. You don't need that. You only need enough power to achieve communication. So if low power will do it, use low power, because that means your signal's not traveling greater or farther than you want it to go. Best practices, I started to get into this and I chased a rabbit. It happens. Grab your radio, and you always want to hold the radio upright. You'll see some people that do this, or they'll use it like a cell phone. Don't do that. Put as much of your hand on the radio as you can with your thumb, press the push to talk button, and hold it about 3 inches from your radio, or from your mouth, the radio from your mouth. And you're going to speak directly into the radio. Press the button, inhale, hey you, this is me. Now the whole time you're talking, you want to do that. You want to make sure that your radio, the antennas are designed to radiate out and up. And so by doing that, holding the radio, you're taking maximum advantage of your radio. You're also getting it above your shoulders so that you get as much of a 360-degree radiation pattern as you can get. Now if you're using a vest, or you put it in your jacket and you're transmitting like this, your hand is often covering up the microphone. So that's it for today. Please make sure and smash that like button and subscribe. Also in our social media, please share, because we want to try to start getting the word out. We want to start doing some more classes. Get out and train. And we've got great videos coming. I hope to see you soon. Leave me a comment if you've got a video idea that you'd like to see in the future, and maybe we'll start working on your idea as well. Thanks everybody, and I hope to see you soon. Oh, I almost forgot. There's a great book on Amazon. I'll leave a link to it in the description. It's Frozen Signals. It's a great emergency communications book on a fictional story about a group of people that work during an ice storm to restore communications. Tactics, Sound Principles, great option. It's available as paperback, obviously, and as well as Kindle. Go check it out. We obviously get royalties off of the book. We wrote it. So, great book. Check it out. Come back, see us soon.